um, I decided, I went and stayed with this old dear friend who was actually drinking, who had actually relapsed. I thought, I'll go to this sober girl's house, because she's good. She had been drinking for like 3 years, so it was so weird how I got to walk into her life and then help her as I'd walked out of her life years before, as a, major junkie. Like, she just couldn't take it anymore. Anyway, she helped me, and then I got to go back and help her, which is, again, the circles, how it works. So I basically ended up, she told me to go to this writing class, and I was like, okay, so, playwriting, I like to write, and I was writing and journaling the whole time. I'm a writer and a musician, and I thought, okay, I'll go and I'll try to write a play. Why not? Playwriting class. I thought Michael Imperioli, Studio Dante. I'm like, this is cool. Go hang out with and these guys were like my drug treatment counselors. It was like, yo, get up on a stage. It's like Tony Soprano and all that. It was really cool. But I'm like, okay, so I took an acting class there. I tried to get back into acting, like Joe was talking about. It was so awesome, where it's like, what do you want to do? When they asked him in treatment, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but when they told him he couldn't go up into his room, he couldn't exercise, this is why we have to change the thinking in rehabs. That is crazy time. What do you mean you can't exercise? He did it anyway. So I take this class, and the teacher keeps giving me these writing notes, yeah, you need to have, what does the characters want? What is this? What is that? And she's asking me all these questions, and she's like, you're just all over the place, and week in and week out. Finally, one week I come back, and she says, you need to go to Bikram yoga. And I'm like, that's my note. And I'm like, what is Bikram yoga? She's like, listen, you're so all over the place. You're so defocused. You have no concentration. Every time you try to speak about the work or speak about yourself, your body, you clench, you freak, it's like I can't really talk to you. You're so, I was like a beat puppy, every time you go to pet the puppy, it was like, it's just so busted, guys, so broken. And she said, you gotta go to Bikram yoga. And I was like, but what is that? And when she explained it to me, heat and, just wear a little, not a bathing suit, I don't know. She told me what, and I'm like, nah, no way. So she's like, meet me at this time, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely not. So she kept planting the seed. So it took 6 months from the time she planted that seed, because she was relentless. She never gave up on me, and that's another thing. Never give up on someone, guys. Never give up, because you never know. So she was having a play opening, and the night of her opening, she's in the bathroom, she's freaking out, she's all nervous, and I'm like, listen, Francine, I just wanted to tell you that the reason I can't go to yoga is because I have body issues. And she turned around and she goes, who doesn't? And she leaves, she walks away. And I was like, that's not what I expected. I wanted to go, oh, it's okay, honey. No, don't go to yoga. So, and she's like, who doesn't? And she leaves, and she's like, so I was like, yeah, who doesn't? Who doesn't? The fact that I have track marks all up and down my arms and legs, who doesn't? And so I decided I'd wear long sleeves. And I would go to a 105-degree room with 40% humidity and long sleeve shirt. So I'm that girl, when you walk in the room, the new girl who comes to a hot yoga class, and they're in sweats and a hoodie, and they're hiding in that was me. And I'm thinking nobody notices. That's the crazy part, nobody notices. And I had this teacher named Raphael Pacitti, who was my first teacher, amazing yoga teacher, and he was looking at me he's like, you might want to shed some of that, And I'm like, no, I'm good. So he's thinking maybe I'm an anorexic or whatever. Anyway, this went on for a while, where I refused to take off the long sleeves. Finally, I spoke to him. I was like, we have to have a meeting. And we went into the back. He had this little office. We went back there, and I was like, so I just wanted to tell you that the reason I can't take off my shirt is because I used to be an IV drug user. I was addicted to heroin. I have track marks all up and down my arms, and I'm really embarrassed, and I don't want to stand in front of the mirror in front of the mirror. He goes, I figured it was something like that. Take it off, let's go. And I was like, oh, and I was like, and today I thought might be the first day I try to like, practice without. He goes, Jesus, when? I've been waiting for this, like they know before we know, Everybody else knows the truth about us before we know the truth about us. So basically I found yoga. I did that first class. I couldn't bend over. I couldn't stand up straight. I was hunched over. I had kyphosis. I had 3 broken ribs that were still really destroyed from being out there. I had all this trauma. I had track marks. I couldn't straighten my arms. So when I put my arms straight, it was like scar tissue ripping, flesh ripping, literally. That's why I know, so many times I tell myself that, and I tell my classes that I teach that if I can do this, you can do this, because someone before me has done this. Like, this is what we do. There's the saying, in order to get through the pain, you gotta go, in order to get out of the pain, you gotta go right through it. So as I started to do yoga, and as I started to look at myself in the mirror, and as I started to see some deep truths about myself, not only the way I carried myself, but that I'd lost my voice, that I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And mind you guys, I'm 49 years old at that point, when I started yoga. I didn't know when I went to teacher training, I started when I was 47. So I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know what my path was. I didn't know if I could ever go back to being a writer or a musician or do any of these things that I had dreamt possible. And as I started to every day go to the yoga room and confront myself in the mirror, I heard this teacher telling me that I could do it. Whether it meant I could lock my knee, whether it meant I could keep my arms over my head, whether it meant I could come back tomorrow, I always had someone outside myself telling me I could do it. And no one had ever told me that before, really, no one ever, like Joe said too, no one ever told me that I could fail, get back up again, and that I could do it. And one thing I want to talk about is trauma. When you have trauma, which all of us have, whether it be a rape, a molestation, I'm not going to say not getting your master's, because it's really not a trauma, but if you internalized it as a trauma, then it might be a trauma for you. Like if you didn't get your father's love that you worked every single day for, day in and day out, like that becomes traumatic after a while. But a trauma is described as something that has totally robbed your whole person, right? It has destroyed you to a place where you are now shell-shocked. You are now that puppy. You are now like unable, you're holding it in your body. And the minute that thing is talked about, the loss of a loved one, or the minute that trauma is talked about, which is what I talked about in that village, that Samaritan village, we talked and talked and talked. You end up going back into that trauma. And when you are in trauma, when you are reliving, or stress hormones are released. And when you start to stress, the amygdala part of your brain, right, this very small part, the lizard part of your brain, the limbic system of your brain, starts to fire epinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol. And it's not that these things are bad. These things are awesome. Because think of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, right, what happened was cortisol, right, stress, buildings falling, people jumping, but what did people do? Adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine kicks in, you run. That's what you do. Fight or flight. They flew, right? They start running. They're processing the trauma, right? You fight, or maybe you stand there and you fight the person to protect if someone's trying to hurt you, or you freeze. When you freeze, when a traumatic event happens to you, and you're held down during a trauma. So trauma is defined like when you are held down, either against your will or the trauma, you're prevented, you're in the fetal position, you can't get out of bed, you just heard your mother died, that's a trauma, right? You are held down, you're not processing it in your body. What starts to happen is then your rest and digest system cannot kick in. So throughout our day, we have 50 or more stressors a day. If you're a basically healthy, amazing person, and 50 stressors kick off in your day, that stressor that kicks off, he cut in front of me like, damn, the subway just left. Oh man, the thing, whatever it is for you, whatever that stress is, it should last 90 seconds. Should last 90 seconds. And then your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, your rest and digest system kicks in so that you can heal that. So that your body can heal and your blood vessels can open, and then all this great stuff can start to happen where you heal. What happens in our lives and why we're so stressed out and why we're all on drugs, I'm going to really get universal. I'm just going to start saying some shit that I don't have any science about, but that's why Ted's here. But, the whole world, we're all Portland, Maine, is shooting up heroin. How many addicts died in the first week of August here? Outrageous. OD'd and died. It is outrageous because you know why? People can't get out of stress. So the only thing that feels good is a bag of dope. And I'm going to tell you or a drink, or the 3,000 likes, or the hit from the outside is what is the only thing, and mind you, the hit from the outside is not stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. It's not, your sympathetic parasympathetic. It's not stimulating rest digest. Going on Facebook is not stimulating rest and digest, right? It's not stimulating savasana. It's not stimulating meditation. It's not stimulating push-ups and headstands in your room, right? It's just not. Because you're not getting it through the body. You're just sitting there trying to fix it from the outside in. So what do we need to do? We need to find ways, number one, right? What do you need? What does your body need to heal itself? You need to ask some big questions about yourself, right? To get rid of all this stress. You're going to be surprised. You're not going to come up with the answer, I need, well, you might come up with the answer, but Xanax, right? You might come up with that answer. I need some Xanax. I need some oxys. I really need that doctor to fill that script. That might be your first answer. But if you go a little deeper, the answer will be, I need to get out of this toxic relationship. I need to quit my job. I need to leave, I need to leave my husband. I need whatever, I need, right, to get a better job. I need to leave. There's going to be some really hard answers that you're going to need to answer for yourself, which is tremendous, which means change. Now, what happened to me is I never was able to make those big changes and big choices in my life. So what did I do? I stayed stuck in rest. I stayed stuck in freeze. I stayed stuck as that little girl who was 7 years old and her brother came into her room at night and molested her. I continue to live that story over and over. And so what do people do? Hurt people, right? So as I continue, what happens when I'm constantly in stress mode, right? I hate you, I hate myself, I hate everybody, I'm gonna kill everybody, and I'm gonna kill myself, and if I can't kill myself, I'm gonna take y'all with me, right? And that's what starts to happen. And then we see gun violence, and more gun violence, and we see more. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do about people dying in Portland, Maine? What do we do about people ODing in Athens, Georgia, and Austin, Texas, and they show up in rehab? And there's such an unlovely lot. They are just so hard to love. I go into Samaritan Village with my yoga mat under my arm, and they look at me like I'm the, arts and crafts lady, and they have so much shit for me, excuse me, like they can't stand me because they can't stand the light. Like I couldn't stand those people either. I walked into my first yoga class and I see the light in their eyes and the love in their heart, and I'm like, yeah, what do you want from me? Like Ted said, how much money you want? What do you want? What, you sell a package? What? I don't want your package. So full of it, because I don't believe you. I don't trust. I have no trust, and I'm back in my stressor place. So how do we stimulate getting into your body? Okay. So Ted talked about it. Everybody here's talked about it. When you have the moment of, I did it, that's the moment rest and digest kicks in. So, Hurricane Hugo hit, I think Gabon Mate talks about this. Hurricane, is it one of the, Hurricane Hugo hit, or maybe it's Bessel van der Kolk. There's a guy who does a lot of trauma stuff, hit Puerto Rico. And what happened? Everybody went into motion, right? Adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine kicks in, and everybody starts building back their houses. The storm goes away, and they start building. And then FEMA comes in, and FEMA goes, no, stop everything. We're not giving you money for this. Stop building. You need permits. You need this. You need that. You can't put your house back together. You can't. So what do? They stand around. They give them some tents to live in, and there's no sense of responsibility or taking their lives back. There's no way for them to process through their bodies building their house back, right? So what do? When we take away that one way, which is to say, so at the end, he can literally go, or she can literally go, I did it. I did it. I built my house back. Rest and digest. Parasympathetic nervous system, gone. That kicks in, sympathetic nervous system, so you have that I did it. Every moment of a hot yoga class, for me, is a moment of I did it. Every moment, like, I can't do it. Like Ted said it all. I can't do it. 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 Oh my God, I'm doing it. Oh my God, I did it. Oh my God, I did it. Oh, that's what it is. Every moment. So the yoga class is set up in a way so that you are in stress. I can't. The negative thoughts, adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine flowing, right? Okay. And you know what happens is most people give up before they ever get to I did it. And then they say that yoga sucks, it doesn't work. And those people are crazy in that hot room. I'm going over to that cold place and break my knee, right? And that's what happens. So basically, every time you go in there, and that's why we have that moment where afterwards you rest, you digest. So now you're teaching the body in 90 minutes, and this is what I want to get the science for. You're teaching the body in 90 minutes how to move through stress and rest and digest. So that when you leave class, right, it doesn't matter, guys. You can kale and juice it out till you're blue in the face, but if you're like this, making your kale, good luck with your breast cancer, because that's what's going to happen, because I'm killing. I eat kale. Like, that's craziness. That is absolutely crazy. Like, you're better off eating Reese's Pieces, hanging out on the plane, right? Like, seriously, like resting and digesting. I mean, I'm telling you, listen, I'm on a no sugar challenge, so whatever, but I'm just saying, that's probably what. But you know what I mean? So that is the key. The key is to be able to go teach the body how to move through stress, into stress, through stress, out of stress, the moment of I did it. And by doing that, right, yoga is medicine, right? By doing that, you begin to really heal your body from a lot of trauma. I'm going to say one more thing too. Talk about full circle. So I have been able to go back to that treatment center. When I was in that treatment center, sitting around, I went back to them advocating for me to bring yoga, to get them to move their bodies, to get out of that serenity garden. They called it smoking cigarettes. They called it the serenity garden. Real serene, I'm real serene. I was like, let's get them out of the serenity garden and down into the dining room, and we'll do some yoga. And it was very hard. It's probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done, because there's not a science for it. There's not enough belief in it. And another thing that happens, there's a thing called the placebo effect, which everybody's heard of. Why do 80% of people get better when you give them a sugar pill, when a doctor in a white lab coat gives them a sugar pill? The doctor doesn't know. It's a blind study. The doctor doesn't know. The patient doesn't know. And the patient gets better, right? So there's a million things you can read on websites about the placebo effect. Absolutely amazing stuff to read about. Spontaneous remissions, it's called. Incredible stuff. Why does that happen? because you have a belief in it. You have an absolute belief that the miracle drug is here in a pill. You have an absolute belief that the person giving it to you in a white coat knows what the fuck they're talking about and that it's gonna work. The caregiver, in combination, the person telling you, you can do it, I love you, this pill works, in combination with your belief that I can do it, this pill is gonna work, this person loves me, right? That combination is what is going to heal your body, heal your trauma, heal yourself to where you don't, I mean, Reese's Pieces is a little bit far, but, you will be so happy and useful. When I'm asked, do you want to be happy? I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what that looks like, but I will tell you happiness or being meaningful. Like I think we're all really searching for meaning. I think we're all really searching to what is the meaning of my life? What is the purpose? Why am I here? Why was I born, right? The existential question. And so once you find that purpose, once you have the courage to really act on it, cut out the toxic shit in your life, which is not easy to do. It is not easy. Guys, I'm still hanging on to like 3 things that I know need to go, right? It's very challenging. One of them is New York City. It's really challenging, right? How do you leave a place that, it's just, and how do you start all over? I have all these ageisms and old ideas. Like, how do you start over when you're 50 fucking 4? Like, that's how I feel. And I'm like, my mother would be screaming at me right now. She'd be like, what? Oh, by the way, speaking of, mom is right in my hip, right? Actually, it's this hip. Every yoga class, right? I process mom to a point where I'm so sick of processing mom because I've just put her right here. She just likes to hang out right here. And when I get in the room, like I've been able to find this amazing love and compassion for my mom because my mom did the best she could. It was the 70s, guys, She didn't know. She knew she didn't know what was she gonna do, So mom, I work really hard on daily compassion and forgiveness for mom. And that's only because of yoga. So thank you so much. I've gone like 5 minutes over. I really appreciate your time and everything. Thank you, guys.